back to Atlanta, the bus driver made them give up their seats to white passengers. Later, Martin recalled his feelings. That night will never leave my memory. It was the angriest I've ever been in my life. Okay, he decided to follow in his father's footsteps and become a minister. Okay, when he was young, he met Coretta Scott, the woman who would become his wife and stand by his side through persecution and glory. In 1954, they went to Montgomery, Alabama, and Reverend King became Dexter Avenue Baptist Church minister. That same year, the Supreme Court ruled against segregation in public schools in Brown versus Board of Education. On December 1st, 1955, a seemingly minor incident occurred that would propel the Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. to fame and permanently change America for the better. Rosa Parks was sitting in front of the Montgomery bus. She was very tired after a long day of work. A white man came on board the bus, and the bus driver told her to give up her seat to him. She refused. Cops were called. They arrested her. She contacted the NAACP, and one of their officials, E.D. Nixon, discussed the matter with Martin Luther King Jr. The Women's Political Council helped Nixon and King organize the Montgomery bus boycott. And despite the fact that most blacks in those days didn't own cars, they boycotted the buses, walking and carpooling to get around. Boycott lasted for over a year, during which King emerged as the leader. His family received many threatening phone calls. Their house was bombed. Luckily, no one was hurt. Finally, the Supreme Court ruled that bus segregation was unconstitutional, and Time magazine put King on its cover. It was during that history-making Montgomery bus boycott that King met Bayard Rustin, a man who would become a close and influential associate. Rustin's life had been scarred, not only by the oppression inflicted upon blacks by whites, but by tensions between black Americans and black immigrants from the Caribbean. Okay. Bayard Rustin had been born into professional caterers and grown up in a mansion in Pennsylvania, so he did not know poverty as a youth. He was raised as a devout Quaker, and he discovered that his family had, with the best of intentions, lied about his origins. He was not the youngest of 9 children. A woman he had known as his older sister was his mother. The man and woman he had known as mom and dad were his grandparents. And so on and so forth. He'd been born out of wedlock. Okay. All right. Now, he also learned that his absent biological father was a Caribbean, and he tried to pattern himself after his mother's boyfriend, who was also Caribbean. He picked up a Caribbean accent that he carried for the rest of his life. He also found to his dismay that many African Americans disliked Caribbeans, finding their accented English funny sounding and finding the Caribbean immigrants arrogant. As a youth growing up in the Great Depression, Rustin was attracted to the Communist Party. Okay. When Hitler invaded the Soviet Union, the Communist Party ordered all its members to stop working against segregation because that would divert attention away from the all-important battle with Germany. But Rustin couldn't put any cause above that of the fight against racism. He resigned from the party. Then he began working for the Brotherhood of Sleeping Car Porters and the Fellowship of Reconciliation. He also studied Gandhian philosophy of social and political change through nonviolent resistance. Okay, and I go on to discuss Bayard Rustin, but I think maybe we should go back to Martin Luther King. Okay. Okay, now, Martin Luther King left Montgomery, Alabama for Birmingham, Alabama, where he led blacks in demonstrations against segregation. He was arrested and jailed, but led another march as soon as he was released. The Birmingham police chief had the peculiarly fitting nickname Bull Connor. Bull Connor. He wanted to stop the civil rights movement. He ordered his police officers to set dogs loose on the demonstrators. And firefighters joined the cops, spraying fire hoses full blast at the protesters. Those tactics backfired. Pictures of young people set upon with hoses and vicious dogs caused a great wave of sympathy for the civil rights movement. And it led President John F. Kennedy to announce that he would propose a law banning racial segregation in public areas. Okay. Now, I go on, and I also quote from that famous speech. I have a dream that one day on the red hills of Georgia, sons